Most pros use it, almost all other photographers are confused by it. What am I talking about? Back button autofocusing. How is it possible that a little button like that on the back of the camera causes so much confusion? Well, let me solve the mystery for you today and show you why it's actually great to use this button on the back of your camera to focus instead of finding focus with your shutter button. When I first heard that you can use the AF on button or star button or rear button of your camera to find focus, I thought, what a lot of rubbish, who would need that? I'm just using my shutter button. But then one day, I was on a boat with a friend, we were photographing seagulls coming in to catch fish out of the water. My friend constantly got really nice shots where my camera kept locking onto the background. So I asked, what are you doing differently? And he's like, well, I'm using the star button on my camera to focus so I can keep my finger on the shutter button, but use my thumb to focus at the right times when I want to focus on the eagle. So I'm like, sounds interesting. I tried it out. It was very confusing at the start, but I got a hang of it and I've never looked back, and since then I've been a big fan of it. When it comes to our autofocusing systems, there's usually two modes available to us. One static mode, like one shot on Canon or IFS on Nikon, where the camera just focuses on one point, the sharpness of focus stays on that one point until you refocus again. So that allows you to, for instance, focus on the bird's head and then recompose the shot in your camera and take the shot. That is great for static and non-moving subjects. However, with action subjects, it's not very feasible if your camera just focuses on one point while the subject is moving. So there we have tracking out of focus, or AI-Servo, where the camera, as long as you press the button on the back or the front, focuses on your subject and you can go with the subject and the focus stays on the subject, tracking your subject. So this is fantastic for moving subjects, birds in flight, or a lot of action shots. However, it doesn't allow you to recompose your shots the moment the bird perches or sits still again. Because while you're maintaining focus on the bird, it stays sharp. But if you're trying to recompose your shot, your focus will instantly jump off the bird and will likely jump onto a background, giving you an out of focus image. And now you might say I could just simply take my finger off the shutter button so my camera stops focusing, then recompose. But that doesn't work, because the moment you press the shutter button half again, your camera will start focusing again and you lose focus on the bird. So now we have two modes. Both are great for different situations, but we all know that it's not easy in the field to change between modes all the time. That would take way too long. So wouldn't it be great if there was a way to have the best of both worlds in one mode? So what do we do when it comes to the back button focusing? It's simple. We'd remove the focusing function from the front shutter button and assign it to one of these buttons at the back of the camera here. Personally, I like to assign it to the star button because ergonomically it's the nicest for my finger. Often cameras already have it assigned to the AF on button over here, so you might not have to change it if you're happy with the AF on button. The key feature is that we only assign the metering and the taking the pictures to the front shutter button and remove the front shutter button functionality of actually focusing. We want to only be able to focus on the back here, and in the front we just do the metering and the taking the picture. So by simply removing the focusing function from the front shutter button and assigning it to one of the rear buttons, my continuous mode can now act as a continuous mode and as a single shot or one shot mode at the same time. How's that possible? Well, if we keep holding down that button, our camera will continuously track our subject, but when I let this button go, the focus will now stay in the last point that I focused on. Because I removed the focusing function from the front shutter button, if I press it now, it will just take an image and not mess with my focus. So now I'm continuous mode, but I can use it like a one-shot mode. I put my continuous focus onto the bird's head, let the rear button go, recompose my image, take the shot. So now it acted just like a one-shot mode. So I've found a way to get the best of both worlds in one neat little package, and this is why I love it so much, and this is why I would never go back to just having all the functions on the one button, and this is why I think that you should give it a go as well. Have you tried it yet yourself? If so, let me know in the comments. So what other advantages does back button focusing have besides combining the one-shot mode or single-shot mode and continuous mode into one mode depending on how I press the button in the rear here? First of all, what I really like about it, I never have to take my finger off the shutter button anymore. Because the shutter button only does the metering and takes the images, I can basically now have it half pressed at all times, so I'm always ready to fire. So this allows me to take pictures faster and just be that little second quicker that sometimes matters. Using back button autofocusing also allows you to pre-focus on a perch and then take the pictures the moment the bird lands. This doesn't work with using the shutter button for focusing, because if you pre-focus on a perch and then press the button again to take your shot, the camera will attempt to focus and often just misses the perch and goes onto the background and you're missing the shot. That cannot happen with using one of the rear buttons to focus, because I focus, I let go, the focus will stay on the perch, and I'm using the front button to take my shots. I'm getting some amazing shots of the birds just landing with the wings up, shots that I would not be able to get if I was using the front button for focusing. Using back button focusing is also great for flight shots. Because what we want to do with flight shots, we don't want to start tracking a bird when it's really far away in a distance. No, we want to keep tracking the bird in the viewfinder, but only focus from time to time so our camera kind of has focus on the bird, but we don't want to focus at all times. We only really want to start focusing when the bird comes into a hot zone where we want to take our images. That gives our camera less scope to just jump onto the background. However, I found with flight shots, I was a lot more tempted to focus on a bird earlier when using the front shutter button. Why is that? Simply because I wanted to be ready with my finger in the shooting position. So when the bird was approaching the hot zone, I started to put my finger halfway down because I wanted to be ready to shoot. But then also my camera started focusing. So often my camera would jump onto the background, lose track of the bird just before it reached the hot zone. So annoying, and I missed out on so many shots. So by assigning the focusing to the rear button, I'm now able to have my finger halfway down and in shooting position the whole time, pumping the focus with the rear button. And when the bird gets into the hot zone, I simply press the button, focus stays on the bird, and I shoot my pictures with the front shutter button. This might not work for everyone, but it has certainly increased my keeper rate dramatically for flight shots. And even when your camera jumps onto background, I found it a lot easier to pump the focus back with the rear button than trying to get it with the front shutter button. There's two more great advantages of using back button focus that I haven't even mentioned. First of all, by separating out the focusing from the shutter button onto one of the rear buttons, the camera now fires whenever you press the shutter button. There's no delay anymore. Sometimes in the standard settings, your camera prioritizes acquiring focus over taking a picture. So you might press your shutter button and there's a delay because the camera is still trying to acquire focus and only then takes a picture. Especially with flight shots, that can be a great disadvantage because you might lose track of the bird. Secondly, you can now use manual focus at all times. I find it very helpful, for instance, if there's a bit of foliage in front of the bird and your autofocus always catches onto that. So because we removed the focusing function from the front shutter button, you can manually focus, and when you press it, it won't mess with what you've done in the manual mode, allowing you to manually acquire focus in difficult situations and then take your shots. Whereas if you've assigned the focus to the front shutter button, you change something manually and then presses it again, it will jump off your manual setting again and not allowing you to use the manual focus effectively. Setting up back button autofocusing is very simple. You just have to go to the custom functions of your camera, go to the custom controls, and then remove the autofocusing function from the front shutter button, setting it to metering only, and then assign focusing to one of the rear buttons, whichever you like. If you like using the AF on button, it usually has the focusing assigned already to it, so you don't even need to do anything. What's really important that you remove the focusing from the front shutter button. In one of my next videos, I want to answer some of the questions that you always wanted to know. So if you have a question that you always wanted to ask me about bird photography or how I became a professional photographer, put them down there in the comments and I will answer the best ones in one of my next videos. I hope you enjoyed today's insight into back button autofocusing and that you might give it a crack yourself now. In the beginning, it will be a little bit confusing, but I know it will be worth it in the long run and you will really love it. So don't give up in the beginning when it gets confusing, you don't know which button to press. Hang in there, you will love it eventually. If not, let me know in the comments. Have you tried it? Are you going to try it now? How are you going with it? Let me know. Give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel down there, and I will see you in one of my next videos. Bye!